Hi, this is Holly with Biz Building Moms, and I'm going to walk you through today how to create and use an Etsy calculator for your prices, profit, and the Etsy fees. I recently created this for myself as I was setting up to sell some items on Etsy and wanted to be sure of my prices and how much profit I was going to make on them before I set my sales prices. So here's what it will look like when we're finished to give you some idea, and I will show you how it calculates and where to plug things in. But I'm going to start us from scratch just to make really clear exactly how it works and what all the components are. This is available then for free download through my blog post that will be linked beneath the video. So you can just download this template and use it from there. But I also just want to walk you through how to create one for yourself. So I'm going to go over to a blank sheet here, if it allows me. There we go. I'm going to start by putting in my headings up here. So I'm going to have a list for all of my materials and the total price of each of those, followed by the units in, if I could spell, that would help, units in the package, and the price per unit. This will be an auto-calculated field. And then if you have multiple variations of your product, you can list them all out here. So I'm just going to call this variation 1 units needed. I am not spelling well today. And then I'm going to call it variation 1 total cost. And then I'm going to add 3 variations here. If you only have 1 variation, you can stop it there. If you have more, you can keep listing them out. But I'm going to do variation 2. Oh, I'm still not reading correctly. Variation 2 units needed. Again, variation 2. Oh my. Variation 2 total cost. And then I'm going to do variation 3, all the same things here. So variation 3 units needed and variation 3 total cost. So these are all my headers. I like to format my headers just really nice and bold so I don't lose them. So I'm going to highlight them all, fill them black, and make the text white and bold. And then I am going to go into my text and wrap it as well under wrapping so that it just doesn't have to make large columns just to fit all of my headings. And just because I like it to look nice to help my own eyes as I'm looking through it all, I'm going to go into alignment and I'm going to center it. And again, I'm going to go into alignment and I'm going to make sure they're in the middle of the cell. It just helps it be a little bit more readable if things aren't all crowded against each other. So after I create my headers there, I'm going to go ahead and list all of the materials that are needed to make my product. So whatever you use to create whatever you're trying to sell, whatever components are in the creation of it, you want to list out here. So I'm just going to put material 1, material 2, material 3, material 4, and once again, I cannot spell anything today. So I'm actually going to just, for the sake of time, copy this one down a few rows. But you can list out here whatever your materials are, and then whatever the total price for that package of the material is. No matter how many are inside it, you can put that price here. So let's just make up some prices here. 23, let's just... and I'm just gonna again copy this down for the sake of time. We don't need to do all of those. And then here is where you want to list. So let's say you have a package full of nails. You have a box full of nails, and the total price for it was $8.24, but it contains 500 nails. So here you want to put 500, or if there's 20, you know, whatever, however many are in the package, you can list them out here. And again, I'm just going to copy that down for the sake of time. And then this is going to become a calculated field. We're going to put in here the price per unit. So we're going to let Google Sheets, or if you're doing this in Excel, calculate for itself what to put here. So you're going to do equals the total price divided by the number of units. And then if it gives you the suggested autofill, go ahead and autofill that down, or you can double click here to fill it down, or just copy paste. And then obviously the formatting here we need to change. I'm going to move that to currency, and then you get a better idea of how much each individual unit within the bag of box of materials costs. So I'm going to gray this out just because that's what I like to do when I have an auto calculated field. I usually gray it out at some level so that I know not to type in that field and ruin my calculation. So then here, in the first variation of your product, you're going to type in how many of those units you needed to create your product. So let's say I needed 210 of these, I needed 40 of these, I needed 3 of these, 7 of these, 8 of these. Again, I'm just going to copy that down. However many units were used in the creation of your product, you want to enter them here as they correspond to each material over here. And then again, we're going to put in a calculated field here. So we're going to put equals your units needed, and then we're going to multiply that by the price per unit. So here, and again, you can autofill that down or copy paste it down. Here you're going to see how much of that item cost-wise you have in each of your products. And again, you can repeat this for all your variations out here. So I'm going to do, I'm sorry, I was thinking as I was not talking there, don't copy this formula exactly over into your other variations, because it'll go to the wrong price per unit. I'll show you what I mean here. So in here, let's do a different quantity. Let's say we need 110, we need 30, and then let's keep some of them the same. Let's say 3, 7, and 8 still of all the other ones. And you can even put zeros in some of your variations. If, one variation uses a material that another one doesn't, I would still list it over here in your materials, but include 0 over underneath the variation. So instead of copying that formula over, we're going to put in equals this variation multiplied by the price per unit. And then again, you can copy that down. So let's do a third variation just for the sake of showing you kind of the whole spreadsheet here and how it works. We'll keep some of them the same again. Let's do a little bit different there. So there's our third variation, units needed. And again, I'm going to multiply the units needed by the unit price that we calculated over here and copy it down. You could get a little bit more tricky and anchor this first formula and then copy it over. If you know what you're doing with that, go ahead and do that, but otherwise you can do it like I just showed you. And now I'm going to skip one under all my materials. So once all my materials are listed out, I'm going to skip one and put in a header here for Etsy expenses. And for the sake of formatting, I'm going to go ahead and put borders around all of this, and I'm going to add a few more rows as well that I'll format as when we get to them. And I'm going to center all this just because it's easier on my eyes. And here again, these are calculated fields, so I'm going to gray them out lightly so that I don't accidentally enter something into them. I think I actually want to go a little bit lighter gray on these. Oh, that was the same one, I think. Let's go here. So again, these are all calculated cells. Once I have all that in, I'm going to come down here. This is just a header, so I'm going to go ahead and make that a dark color just to keep it separate. And so we have Etsy expenses. And again, I'm going to go beyond what I put borders on for these cells, but I'll add those as we go. So Etsy has basically 3 types of fees at this point associated with selling a product through their platform. So there are 3 different fees that you want to account for, and one of them gets pretty tricky with how it's calculated, where we're going to have to calculate somewhat of a range for it. So just list under Etsy expenses, you're going to have an Etsy listing fee, followed by an Etsy transaction fee, and then you have, we're going to put Etsy minimum processing fee and Etsy max processing fee. And you'll see why we have to do that when we get to it there. So for now, under your Etsy listing fee, Etsy charges at this point 20 cents per listing. So you want to just go ahead and type in 20 cents there. You're going to want to format that as currency. And the transaction fee at this time is 5% of your sale price for Etsy. So I'm going to go ahead and format that as a percent. Oh, and make sure it's 5 and put that in there. And then I'm going to list across for the Etsy fee. That's a fee for every listing you do. So it's just going to be 1 for each product. I'm going to put a 1 in there, and then I can copy the same formula down here to that. And I'm going to put that I need 1 for each variation, because each variation is considered a listing. And then again, you can copy the formula up here down into the cells down here to just make sure it's putting 20 cents into the expense for each of your products. And we're going to go ahead and leave for now the Etsy transaction fee row and these minimum and max processing fields blank, and you'll see why, because they have to calculate based on some things we enter later. So I'm going to skip one. I'm going to make another header here for shipping expenses. And beneath that, I'm going to put shipping material 1 and 2. Again, make sure you're accounting for, make sure you count boxes, labels, anything that you have to buy and that you have an expense for in shipping your product. The last thing you want to do is set your price and then find out that you didn't include some really expensive box or container that eats into your profit that you weren't expecting. And then I'm going to add here shipping minimum and then shipping max. And I'm going to go ahead, that is the bottom of my sheet, so I'm going to go ahead and put borders on all of these to make it all one table here. Up here. So under, and I'm going to, format this. I'm going to format paint this down here so we have the same headers there. And these fields I'm actually going to make like a light orange color. You can do whatever colors you want. Just to indicate that they are, we're going to have to enter these directly. So they're not going to be calculated fields, but they're also not going to be ones that we change all the, I'm highlighting them because they're going to be specific fields that we have to enter from Etsy, and I'll show you that when we get to it. So let's come down to the shipping materials, and let's just, for the sake of using the spreadsheet here, make sure we put in, let's just say these are about 51 bucks and these are, let's say, 43.29. And again, these are currency. And then let's say in each package we get 100 boxes. So we'll make that 100, and you can copy down here the same formula down here. So it'll come to, 51.43 cents a box there. And so then you need to put how many you need for each variation in here. So let's say our first variation, let's say one box is smaller, one box is bigger, and that one needs the smaller. And let's say the other two both need the bigger. So here you can put which, shipping materials are included with each product. And again, we can copy down this formula down here for each of these as well. This formula is just multiplying the units needed by the price per unit. So now we have our shipping materials factored in there. And if you want to, you can color. My other sheet, I think, had all of these. Whoops, wrong gray. Colored the whole way down. Sometimes that's helpful for the eye. And I'm not picking the right color gray. How about we format paint? There we go. And I'll do the same here. And just make sure that we have a uniform look to it all. You can wait to do all the coloring till you enter everything, but it just kind of helps me to do it as I go. So now we're going to come down below our first variation. I like to skip one just to make this a little bit separate, skip a row, and I'm going to type in minimum expense and maximum expense. And I'm going to put borders around all of this. And I'm going to make this bold. And here I like to left line it. And I'm going to fill, I like to fill the expense type things with either red, yellow. I'm going to do yellow this time. And these are going to be currency. So here in my minimum expenses, I'm going to enter a formula to add up all of the lowest expense options. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I'm going to we're going to rewind a little bit. The shipping min and max here for each variation. How I figured this out for my own product is I went into the Etsy listing, and if you select that you want Etsy to auto calculate the shipping for you, and you can pick which shipping method in the listing, and it will give you an estimate for 4 different locations within the US. If you're shipping worldwide, it's going to get a lot trickier. I'm currently only shipping in the US and designed the spreadsheet that way. You can put in international shipping costs as well. Just know that it's going to really expand your range. So I'm just going to put in here let's say my closest region for shipping is $6, and the one that's further away for this variation of the product is $15. Again, I want this to be currency. And you want to put that in for each variation because it may be different if you're shipping something that's a different size, that needs a bigger box, or something that's heavier or lighter. So I'm just going to go ahead and kind of make up shipping costs for the sake of this template. And we want these to all be currency. So you will find these to enter on Etsy in your the screen where you create your product listing. You can, under the shipping, kind of see what Etsy estimates for different locations within the United States there or worldwide. So that needs to be entered before you come down here. So that's why I needed to rewind there. I'm going to center that. So here we're going to calculate what the minimum would be of all our expenses. So you know what? I need to rewind again. We need to enter these formulas for our fees before we do that. So sorry about that. We're going to rewind again. Somewhere on your spreadsheet, you want to come over and, like, I like to do it on the side here just so it's all in my same visual pane. But if you have a lot of variations across, you might want to do it underneath. You can do it anywhere. But I'm going to type in my sales tax rate that I'm using in my calculations, my Etsy country rate, and my Etsy fixed rate. If you click through to the link to read my blog post at the bottom of this video, you can find a link in that post for where to find all of these rates. But I'm going to show you, I'm just going to use what I use as shipping in the United States here. And again, sometimes I get crazy about coloring things, but it just helps my eye to separate different things. Okay, so I'm going to make these 2 percentages, the top 2 cells percentages. They're both, and then the last one is currency. So I decided to use as my sales tax rate, and this comes into play because Etsy's processing fee is calculated based on your total price of product and the total shipping price, even if you're not offering free shipping. and the sales tax included, it calculates off of that total. So sales tax does matter in how they process their fees, which is why that gets a little bit tricky. I chose to just create my spreadsheet to go with the maximum sales tax in the US, which was California, with 7.25%, because a lot of that's going to come down to where you're selling. So you can do whatever you want there. If you know you're only selling to certain states or a certain region, you know, you can change that based on your needs. But I went with the highest US sales tax rate there because I'd rather overestimate my expenses than underestimate them. And then the country rate for the United States with Etsy right now is 3%. Again, if that changes at any point, you can just come and change it right here and everything will update. And the fixed rate for the United States right now is 25 cents. So we're going to put that in here. Again, you can click on the link below this to my blog post to see where I found all those rates or look into them a little bit more. It is a little bit confusing to get your head around. So now I can come down here and put in, no, I cannot. I need to put in my prices first. So first, I'm just going to copy this over. Sorry, I'm a little bit scattered here with my order of everything. So I'm going to eventually want to put in my minimum and maximum expense for each product variation, and that's why I copied that over. So here's the field that I need before we can move on. I'm going to put price charged, and I'm going to format paint this, but I am going to change this one just to a bright pink because this is the field I'm going to toggle the most. I'm going to copy this over. This is where you're going to put in your price estimate to kind of play with to see what price you want to set your products at. So I'm just going to say we want to sell this one for $150 and this one for $115, and let's just say we're shooting for $90 on this one. And then down here we're going to do, I'm going to copy this down again just to make it easier with the formatting, except I'm going to turn these green. I like to do green for profit. Just seems clear to me that that's money gained then. And we're going to change this to your maximum profit that you could earn on that product and your minimum profit. And I'm going to copy that beneath each variation as well. All right, so now we can come in here and we're going to do our Etsy transaction fee, which is equal to 5% over here multiplied by the product price that you are considering charging. And that's a fee that Etsy takes off each product as it sells. So I'm just going to enter that formula in there. Again, you can anchor the 5% over here to copy it over, but I'm just going to individually enter each one of these to show you. And we're going to use the price for this variation, and we're going to do the third one, price down here. So these are our Etsy transaction fees then. See, we want all of our expenses for the product to end up in these variation columns so that they get calculated into our expenses. Next, we're going to do the Etsy processing fees, and these are the ones that get a little bit tricky, so bear with me here if I don't get it straight quite the first time. But we're going to come in here, we're going to put equals 25 cents, the fixed rate for the US, plus, now we want to do 3% of the sales tax, which would be the sales rate, multiplied by the product price that we're estimating, plus the shipping minimum that we gathered from Etsy. And so we want the sales tax on all of that. That's what that will calculate. And we're going to add to it the price and the shipping minimum. And it looks like I messed something up in there, so let's take another look. We're doing the rate plus, oh, I did not put multiply in here. That might be part of the problem. Let's see if that fixes it. There we go. We fixed it. So in this one, I think it probably is just easier to copy it over. So what I would say is come over here and let's anchor the ones that we need to anchor. So let's anchor by putting the $ in here. We're anchoring the M4, which is our fixed rate for the country. We're going to anchor our M3, which is the percentage rate for the country. And then I'm going to come in here and also anchor our 7.25 sales tax that we used. And the rest of these, let me just make sure the shipping minimum and the price charge we want to move with the formula. So let's go ahead and then, so all you have to do is all the M ones up here, add $ before and after to anchor them, leave any of your F1s or whichever variation column you're in, leave those unanchored. And then we can copy and paste it over here. So you'll get an idea that's your minimum processing fee. And the reason that they're different is because of the shipping expense. Because the sales tax included in here that Etsy takes into account with this fee is going to be a different amount percentage because it includes the shipping cost. Even if you're not calculating the shipping into your price yourself and you're having Etsy calculate, you still need to factor it into this processing fee. So then we're going to come down here and basically the same type of formula, but we're going to do it for the maximum shipping. So we're going to come in here, we're going to do the fixed country rate. Let's see if I can get it right the first try this time, times the country percentage rate multiplied, we got that in there this time, by the sales tax rate times the price down here plus our shipping max right here, and then we want to, so that's just the sales tax portion, so we still need to add in our price and our shipping to the total that the 3% is on. So again, it's probably easier to just anchor this and copy it across. So I'm going to come up here and all the M cells in this, I'm going to put a $ before and after. And now I can copy it across. So I'm going to copy this and paste it across. So now we have the minimum processing fee if your shipping's the lowest that Etsy would charge, and the maximum if your shipping is higher. They're not different by much. If you don't care about that amount of difference, you know, you don't have to calculate them both out separately. But I like to really see down to the detail the expenses that are in each of my products, especially if your products are a pretty low cost item. Every little cent counts. So now we have all of that calculated. Now we can come down here and we're going to calculate our minimum expense total for this variation of the product. So I'm going to put a sum formula in here to just easily gather. We want to include all of this, and we want the Etsy listing fee, transaction fee, and minimum processing fee. Make sure you don't go into the max there. And I'm going to close parenthesis that, and then I'm also going to add in the shipping materials. I'm just going to do another sum because it's all in a row here. The shipping material expenses and the shipping minimum, and enter. So I do not want to autofill that one down. So this is my minimum expense for that product, 116. Now I'm going to go through and calculate the maximum expense, which would be all of these expenses up here again, and all of the Etsy, the first two Etsy listing fees, I'm sorry. And then I'm going to add in the max shipping fee, max Etsy processing fee, I'm sorry, and the shipping materials, and then I'm just going to tag on the end, make sure I add the shipping max. Once you have both of those, missing a parenthesis. I think I added one too many to the end. There we go. So now that I've calculated those, I can copy them across to the other items. So there's our expenses, and then the final step is quite easy to create here. So the max profit, you just want to do your price that you're charging and subtract your minimum expenses, because that would be the most that you make then. Again, don't autofill that, and you can copy that across. And the minimum profit is going to be the price you charge and subtract your maximum expenses, and you can copy that across. So now you can see here, you can see that this is not good, that your third variation, if you price it at $90, you're actually going to lose money in the situation of your minimum profit. So you probably want to make sure that you increase that price. You can play around. Let's say we move it to $105. Now you're at least making $10 as your minimum profit, maximum closer to 16. So it will give you a range, and you can play around here then with your prices based on all your materials included in each product, all of the Etsy fees that will be applied to your product, and your shipping expenses. If you're offering free shipping, then when you calculate your expenses up here, you want to include everything except one of these shipping cells that we included. I'm sorry, if you're offering free shipping, you want to include them. If you're not offering free shipping, then the shipping is not an expense that you will incur, it's separate, so you don't want to include these. Either way, you need to list them here because they factor into how Etsy calculates some of your fees. And that's why you're going to end up with a range either way. But yes, let me repeat that and make sure I get it correct for you. If you're offering free shipping, you want to include these cells in your expense totals. And if you are not offering free shipping, then you want to make sure you do not include these in your expense totals. And once you do all of that, you can play around with your prices. You know, if you know an estimate of what profit you're trying to make, then you can plug in here until you get to that. You can kind of see what price would lead you as a minimum to no profit. You know, we still haven't gotten it here. And you can just, that one's still there. Oops, I did that wrong. Let's try 120. That one's still giving me slightly minimum profit there. So, you know, I can see exactly what I don't want to go below. It just really gives you a helpful way to visualize where you want to set your price for your product. And again, in this spreadsheet, all of the grayed out cells here are auto-calculating. So you really don't want to touch those if you come in and change anything. But all of the white ones you can change. So say this product, you know, the material suddenly becomes $15. You can come up here, update that to $15, and it will auto update across, you know, all of your variations here. So you can see how that affects your bottom line and your profit for the item. And same thing with the units, you know, if the package or the packaging just changes and it comes still to 15, but now you're getting, you know, 450 in a package instead, you can plug all that in and it will auto calculate across. And if you ever want to, you know, look specifically at a different sales tax sale rate state, you know, if you're going to be selling specifically to a certain sales tax region, you can plug that in here. And again, the 3% and the 25 cents is where the US rates that I found through Etsy's site are at right now. I'm sure that could change, which is why I wanted to list it separately over here so that I can just come in, plug in, you know, if they increase it to 4%, I can add that update and it should change. You'll see down here in the processing fee cells, if you change this, that they will change as well. So it should give you an easy way to just, you know, make the changes you need to make to materials and taxes and fee percentages, and to easily just be able to come down and visualize how that is going to affect your profits. And again, to set your prices, so you can just play around with different prices and see how it's all gonna work out per sale of a unit. So I hope this is helpful to you. It helped me to organize my brain as I was trying to set my prices for these Etsy products. And yeah, comment below with any questions. I'll try to get back to them. And again, you can access the blog post link with a little bit more information and some of the links to the Etsy pages with this info by clicking the link below this video.